create and apply a sliding scale design to a graph. So previously, we've defined an image to become a custom icon in a graph. So now let's look at how we can utilize the sliding scale feature defined as our icons or images so that we're not oddly stretching our images. It is quite easy to do. If I select what we have here so far, you'll see that I have the pencil, and then I also have that rectangle that has a fill of none, stroke of none, so that it allows me to define that area for my defined image. So if I zoom in here a minute, what we need to do is define an area that I can draw a line over top of my graphic here, and that will determine at what point this will slide. So it will leave the top portion alone, it will leave the bottom portion alone, and simply just stretch it at that point. So it's a great option for a picture such as a pencil because I want the top to remain looking normal and the bottom to remain looking like it should, but I can certainly stretch this middle part. So what we need to do is use either the pen tool, you could use the pencil tool if you wanted, pen tool is probably a better option, or the easiest probably just this line segment tool because all we're doing is drawing a straight line. I'm going to reset my stroke to black so I can see what I'm doing, and I'm simply going to draw a line to be used as a guide over the object. If I want to make it be straight, which I do, I'm going to hold shift as I drag. There it is. So it really didn't matter if I put it up here or if I put it down here for this picture. Now there are some other types of images that you might be using that it does really matter where this line is. So now we are going to convert this line. I'm going to select it, make sure it's all selected, the entire thing, not just one of the endpoints, but the whole line segment here is selected, and we are going to convert it to a guide. So under View, I'm going to navigate to Guides, and I'm going to make a guide. And what this does is it makes a guide from that line. Okay, so because I don't have my guide locked at the moment, I would be able to move it, but I don't want to. And you can see my smart guide here says guide as what it is. Okay. And you can see that it looks like it's a guide like I would have drawn from my ruler. So now that I have that guide, I'm going to select both the object, that box, and that guide. Make sure that that is selected as well. And I'm going to define this as a new design. So under Graph and to Design, this is where we defined previously. There's my pencil from previous definition. Now I'm going to make a new design here, and I'm going to rename this because I need to make sure I know that this is the sliding design. So I can say pencil, but then say sliding. So I remember that I can distinguish between my regular pencil and now this sliding design. Click OK. There it is. Okay, so now that it's defined, I can change. I'm going to click OK. And now I can change this in my graph. Let's zoom out. So I'm using Control, Alt, and Spacebar to zoom out here a minute. Go back down. Let's zoom out a little bit more. This is quite large. And this is my graph that I have previously defined, and it was kind of a vertical scale. You can see that this end of the pencil is much shorter than this, which is, you know, a higher measurement. Let's select this whole entire chart here, this whole graph. Go to Object, go to Graph, and now we need to change what that design is as far as the columns. So think column. And here actually I have some other ones defined that you're seeing again, but this is my pencil sliding. Okay, so if I click that and click OK, what's happening actually is I'm seeing some of the other designs that I've saved in other open documents, so you actually can start seeing and sharing a bit. So sliding pencil, and now I need to change this to sliding as my option. Okay, so that's my sliding option, and I'm going to click OK. So now look at how I get kind of a short stubby pencil here, but the eraser component is all the same. The pointed end of the pencil is all the same. It's just the height that's different. Let's go ahead and see what one of these others, even though it doesn't have to do with students, but let's look at one of these others that I'm seeing here. The pencil, or the flower. Let's see if this flower is sliding or not. And it certainly is. So see how the stem gets longer or shorter because there's been a defined guide to chop and let it slide. So those are some options that you can do, and this one is really kind of fun because then you don't ruin and distort your image, and you know, it's very easy to see. It's a much easier way to compare these numbers, more of an apples versus apples rather than an apples versus oranges type of comparison. So that's how you can define and apply a sliding scale design to your graph.